thank you very much for the friendship between Kenya and Germany. As you have said correctly, Germany was the first country to recognize the independence of Kenya, and ever since, the relationship has never been the same again. We have grown that relationship by leaps and bounds. Today, we are proud that we will be celebrating 60 years of German-Kenyan relations, and I welcome you, Chancellor, to Nairobi for this celebration. My various meetings in Berlin have borne fruit. I have had a conversation this morning in the Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue, where we are sharing ideas on how, as humanity, we should deal with the existential threat that faces us coming from climate change. I am happy that Kenya and Germany share ideas on the strategy on how to combat and deal with climate change. I did make to Chancellor the offer of Kenyan geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar resources that we can partner to unlock the tremendous potential that exists in the African continent and in Kenya in particular, by combining German technology and resources with our geothermal energy resources to build a win-win outcome, not just for Germany and Kenya, but also for Africa and Europe. The conversations, again, this afternoon around sharing knowledge and experience around MSMEs and our TVET institutions, combining and realigning curriculum between Kenyan MSMEs and technical and vocational training institutions, so that we can train at the same level our skilled, semi-skilled, and other levels of labor, understanding that labor is now a mobile asset around the globe. I am very happy that Germany has offered, in fact in the last 2 weeks, we signed a 45 million euro facility for the exploitation of our geothermal resources in Olkaria. And I want to thank Chancellor for the assurance that he has made that Germany and Kenya will continue on the trajectory of renewable energy exploitation for the benefit of both Kenya and Germany. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me also put it on record that Kenya has been pushing for the last 10 years variable geometry on the application of the EPAS. And I now can confirm with the support of Germany that tomorrow we will be having the final meeting in Brussels, where Kenya finally will be able to sign the economic partnership agreement between Kenya and Europe to allow us opportunity to export our valuable products into the European market. And that will serve as an interim agreement as we wait for the rest of the members of the East African community to prepare themselves, and so that we can all sign the agreement together later. Let me also thank the Chancellor for the offer that Germany is making for us to be able to build our human capital together. We're aware that Germany will require human capital, labor, to be able to support industry and development of this country, and Kenya will be ready to offer both skilled and high-quality labor to Germany and to Europe under a framework that is mutually acceptable between Germany, and Kenya. Let me also thank Chancellor for the support that he is giving us out of Brussels in managing the affairs of our region, especially in Somalia, in Ethiopia, and in DRC. I have shared with him the interventions Kenya is making, the support Kenya is giving both in DRC, in Ethiopia, and in Somalia, and we've agreed that EU, under the leadership of Germany, will support our efforts in stabilizing our region. And I have also made a commitment that as a country, we are signatories to the UN Charter, and the respect for territorial integrity of countries is a cardinal principle of our beliefs, both as a country and as a region, and any aggression anywhere is actually aggression everywhere. And we are very strong believers that the war in Europe should be brought to an end, and the aggression against Ukraine is unjustified in any way. Kenya is a democratic country, and our democratic credentials stand out in the African continent. We had the most transparent, the best election acclaimed by all the observers, whether EU, whether Africa Union, whether USAID, and all the actors that were present in that election. What is going on in Kenya is the usual challenges of democracy, where people want to challenge the rule of law. My position as president is that the property, the lives, the businesses of everybody, Kenyans and foreigners, will be protected by the government of Kenya. All those involved in criminal activity, whoever they are, irrespective of who they are, what their status is, will be brought to book. It is unthinkable for any government to participate in the destruction of property of citizens. I want to tell you, as I tell Kenyans and members of the global community, that the government of Kenya will make sure that the property and lives of all Kenyans, including our visitors, will be protected, and those involved in criminal activity, including the invasions, will be brought to book. I want to tell you that we have no exceptions on respect for the rule of law, and we also don't have exceptions on protection of property or lives. Everybody must respect the rule of law, and everybody is entitled to the protection of their property and of their assets and of their lives by the government of Kenya.
Both our countries are linked by close relations and a good partnership. And this is not only true for government-to-government relations, it's also true for relations between both our societies. The economic contacts, the business contacts are good. Kenyan and German companies cooperate closely, and our trade unions engage in an exchange. We have scholarship programs, town trainings, and comprehensive cultural programs, and, of course, a long-standing development cooperation. Kenya is a stable and functioning democracy, and it is a stabilizing factor in a troubled region. For managing crisis in East Africa, Somalia, Ethiopia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya makes an indispensable contribution. And Germany would like to, even more strongly than before, support Kenya in this part of it. I am confident and convinced that African-led initiatives for peace and stability in Africa will become even more important in the future. This, of course, presupposes support on the part of its international partners, and we talked about this too today. Kenya is active at the international level and relies on multilateralism. Several UN organizations have their main headquarters in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Together, Kenya and Germany stand up in order to defend the multilateral global order against its opponents. And we both agree that we not only need to defend multilateralism in an effective manner, but also to stand ready to reform it so as to ensure that it is in line with present circumstances. African countries should be more strongly represented at the international level, and Germany expressly supports the efforts underway for a greater African representation on the Security Council of the United Nations and more African seats. Kenya is a genuine climate champion and thus a role model for all of us. Last year, we agreed on a climate and development partnership, and we intend to breathe life into it now. This year, Kenya will be hosting the Africa Climate Action Summit, which is an important preparatory step for COP28, and we would like to support Kenya in this effort. I strongly support and speak out in favor of an interim economic partnership agreement between the European Union and Kenya. Kenyan companies ought to have better access to the European market and should be integrated in fair and sustainable supply chains. And finally, Kenya is the third largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa and in the vanguard of digitization. Such an agreement would be an important interim step on the road to an African free trade area. And here again, we would offer our support. Thank you, Mr. President, for visiting us in Berlin. Again, a very warm welcome to Germany, and I look forward to returning your visit soon, coming to Kenya.
I would like to use this opportunity to thank the President for the very clear stance that Kenya has taken with regard to Russia's war of aggression on Ukraine and against Ukraine. This is indeed a very clear and a very courageous stance of importance for the security of the world. When we talked personally earlier, I shared with him that I have often quoted the words of the Kenyan ambassador to in the Security Council of the United Nations, because he very clearly described in what way Russia's war violates international law in making that statement. I am very happy about the fact that we have these negotiations. We are continuously making headway. We're engaging in a lot of detailed discussions, and we hope to achieve a good overall result. And the very intensive and good preparatory work that I did with the Vice Chancellor and the Finance Minister has paid off. He's prepared our negotiations, and we're now going through very concrete issues step by step. And I think at the end of the day, the efforts will pay off. We have also focused on things that you might not have focused on, but you will be satisfied at the end of the day. We hope we will find a solution that is good for the future of our country. Perhaps just one remark, if I may. It is about modernizing our country in the 21st century in the face of immense challenges at a global level. In a world that continues to grow together, that will soon have more than 10 billion inhabitants, where we'll have many important countries in Asia, in Africa, in South of America, not only the classical countries of the North, and thus it is important that we do things right in order to help us organize progress. It is about digitization, it's about standing up to man-made climate change, and it is about responding at the requisite speed as is in line and appropriate for the biggest economy in Europe. It's important when you want to be an industrial country that is driving change and trade in the world, whilst at the same time carefully using the resources we have. And it's of course also about the speed with which Germany develops, enhancing the speed in introducing the matters we intend to do, not only with regard to renewables being used to a great extent. It's also about setting up the necessary infrastructures more quickly in order to have the infrastructure we need for the future. So the effort will pay off. I can assure you of that. And I'm pretty confident that we will make major achievements. That discussions like this take some time is not coming as a surprise. I think it's fair to say there are a whole host of elements and trends in society that need to be reflected. Of course, we delegate this to parties, the parties represented in the Bundestag, And then we have the parties that are members of the coalition government. And we also have to discuss matters that haven't yet been settled. You know, you cannot just carry out a poll saying, what is the end result going to look like? It's a tedious process of negotiating that we have set out to engage in. This is representative for the society as a whole on the pathway to a successful modern economy. And this is what is at stake.